Hello, for my simple assignment, I decided that I would teach Dave how to make cheese biscuits. So the important thing is to make sure you measure all of the ingredients. So the first ingredient is flour, 2 cups of flour, so you make sure you level off your flour. 2 cups of flour and 4 teaspoons of baking powder. Now sometimes I've washed my hands, I just use my finger to level off. 2, 3, 4. And 2 tablespoons of sugar, again leveling off. 1, 2. It's important to measure all the dry ingredients. I pre-measured the salt, which is 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and 1 cup of grated cheddar cheese. Okay, so now what I do is I mix those all together to make sure that the baking powder and salt and everything is all mixed nicely together before I add the wet ingredients. And the wet ingredients includes 3/4 of a cup of, 1/3 of a cup of oil and 3/4 of a cup of milk. So 1/3 of oil. And I think it's the oil that makes these no-fail biscuits, because a lot of the recipes calls for shortening, and sometimes it's hard to get that just right. So I mix the oil in so that there's just little pea-size lumps formed before I add the milk. Now the important thing with biscuits is not to handle them too much. And it may not be that your hands are too hot, you may handle them too much. Okay, so once I add the milk, 3/4 of a cup of milk, exactly. Okay, so I kind of mix the wet and the dry together until it's formed into a lump that I can work with. Now, it is true that you can't make biscuits without getting your hands into it. Okay, I think I've got everything mixed together there. So then you dump it on a floured surface. You can get these little shakers at the dollar store. Doesn't have to be expensive. Making cheese biscuits is making a nice healthy snack from practically nothing. So you take the ball of dough, you put it out there, and this is where you get your hands into it. So just 8 to 10 times to make sure that everything is mixed together. Okay, that's looking good. So then what you want to do is just flatten it out with your hand. You don't need a rolling pin or anything like that. To 1 inch. And then you take your cookie cutter. Actually, I always put a little bit of flour just to make sure that the biscuits come off. I forgot to get a cooking sheet. My favorite biscuit cooking sheet, and I will set that in the sink and start cutting the biscuits. Now these are quite small. Depending on what you want to do, you can cut them with a bigger cookie cutter, and if you don't have a proper cookie cutter, you can just use a tomato paste can with both ends cut out of it. Now usually I would set those right on the pan, which I should do. I will be putting them in an oven at 425 degrees for 15 minutes. So in about 20 minutes, you can have a nice healthy snack for your kids, and or for a go with your lunch or dinner. And sometimes I make these with something like dill or something else in them just to make them spicier. So lots of biscuits from 2 cups of flour. Okay, now the other important thing to do is once you get them on the pan is to prick them with a fork so that they don't tumble over. Whoops. Okay, there you have it. Cheese biscuits ready for the oven. I will show you the result in 15 minutes. So here are the biscuits 15 minutes later. And now what we need is the technology so that you can smell how delicious they are. Figure that one out, Dave. Thank you.
Millie, do you like cheese biscuits? Do you like cheese biscuits?